Blackballed. 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 Blackballed.
What is up, everybody? My name is James D. Fiore, and this is Blackballed. Brian Lilly, he is dating a woman named Ivana Yellick. Ivana Yellick is the press secretary for Doug Ford, and Brian Lilly works for the Toronto Sun. People tend not to trust Brian Lilly. Oh, I should probably put up a picture of him just so we know who we're talking about. People should not trust Brian Lilly because Brian Lilly shares the bed with the press secretary, obviously, of Doug Ford, and he writes for the Toronto Sun, and therefore it makes anything that he writes that is in praise of the provincial government or criticizing the federal government, or basically any liberal, like a provincial liberal, you have to take it not with a grain of salt. You just probably should ignore pretty much everything he reports. The timing of his columns are often suspect. The Toronto Sun in the past has circulated a document inside their offices instructing their journalists what they want to talk about that has a conservative bent. They do not try to hide their affiliations. They do not try to hide their biases. They do not try to hide the fact that they're in the tank for Doug Ford and his Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario. And there are other outfits in this country that I would say match that type of standard, let's call it, when it comes to how they report the news. And when it comes to what they want to say about certain individuals that do not fall in line with the conservative mantra. One of those publications is called the Western Standard. Full disclosure, I wrote an article for the Western Standard about 17 years ago when it was still run by a young plucky lawyer, great guy named Ezra Levant. Ezra Levant, before Sun News, before we knew that he was kind of the weasel that he is, was, I believe, the publisher, if not the editor, someone might want to fact check me on that, of the Western Standard. He wanted me to write an article detailing the story of me voting several times in the federal election to show how our electoral system was ripe for fraud. And when I did that, I didn't realize at the time, I was in my early 20s, that it was, and I would have done it anyways, even if I did realize it, that it's a staunch conservative issue to require ID at the polls. And I just thought that our elections were kind of messed up. But the motivation for the Western Standard to hire me to write this piece was because they wanted to put in laws like the Fair Elections Act. And unfortunately for me, my story was cited several times by this gentleman, the leader of our opposition, Pierre Poilievre, who cited me in the House of Commons during a committee meeting several times, trying to bolster his argument for requiring IDs at the polls. My guest today was approached by the Western Standard earlier today to ask him a series of very, very serious questions concerning the lawsuit that has been launched by Shane Home owners Shane and Edith Wenzel against Canada Land Incorporated, and my guest today. And his name is David Wallace. David, long time no see, buddy.
How are you?
I'm okay. So I used that Brian Lilly example in the intro because, and by the way, our file photo, big thanks to Kareem Assad for our file photo. We actually worked on this together. And like I always like to say, she did the heavy lifting. I provided the concept, and this is Brian Lilly. But it's a perfect example of what you were dealing with today, in a sense.
Funnily enough,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I have a colleague in the business who I won't name, but allegedly that photograph of Mr. Lilly is probably a live action shot, from what I've heard.
Yeah,
allegedly.
Right. Allegedly. When you forwarded me the email that you received from the serious journalists over at the Western Standard.
Yes.
I received this email and I looked at it and I immediately called you and I'm like, don't answer any of these questions. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe let's see if we can have fun with this. So the person who wrote the email, his name is Jonathan. I always forget his name. His name is Jonathan Bradley. It's so funny. He's like, my name is Jonathan Bradley, and I am an Alberta reporter at the Western Standard. And then he gives his number, and it starts with 416. So, I mean, look, like he could have a Toronto cell phone because and moved out west. That's totally plausible. Or he's not based in Alberta, because who says that? Whoever says that they're like stationed in a certain city when they're, anyways, it just seems a little odd. Now, the questions though were obviously, it would be like Brian Lilly contacting David Suzuki and asking very serious questions about the environment. And David Suzuki gets the first question and he's like, why is acts of God considered man-made climate change, or something like that, right? Like he would just totally slant all the questions towards climate change denial or something like that. And this list of questions is so funny that I decided to build a show around it. And the interesting part is that I invited Jonathan onto the show. I won't put the text up because I don't feel like wasting time, but I will read the text messages to you. I said, hi, Jonathan. It's James. This is right after David received the questions that we'll get to in a second. We're actually going to do the Western Standard a real solid today. And we are going to answer every one of the questions that they've asked us. So I get the email and I say, and I text him, I say, hey, Jonathan, it's James DeFiore from Blackballed and the Dean Blundell Network. David Wallace asked me to let you know he'd be happy to answer your questions directly tonight on the podcast. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern time. This is your invite. And he said, very politely, no, thank you.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. And I said, okay, your email will be on it. And thank you very much for the content. And then I sent him the promo. I have not heard back. Now, because we are very serious about serious journalists calling us or emailing us very serious questions, we are going to do our best to answer these questions. And so let's not waste any more time and let's get on with the questions. So question number one, David, you ready?
I'm absolutely ready.
What is your reaction to the fact that, this guy's got to be like 23.
The fact.
What is your reaction to the fact that the Wenzels are suing you for defamation? What is your reaction, David? This is hold on, let me get my serious journalist face on. David, what is your reaction to the fact?
Shocked.
You shocked. Yeah.
Shocked.
Now, how would you really answer that though? What is your reaction? Because I remember the reaction.
I'm overjoyed. I'm overjoyed. I mean, it's puzzling in a sense because they know what I've got. They sat at the table. They know the communications. You, James, have seen the communications. I'm very grateful.
Yes,
I really am. Thank you.
That's right. Grateful because if you've watched the show on Saturday, we gave you the list. I won't put up their pictures, but we gave you the list of the cast of characters, if you will, who would be making an appearance during the deposition of that lawsuit. And they included everyone from Alberta's current premier, Alberta's former premier, Alberta's former justice minister. It just makes us tickled pink that the Wenzels would be so kind as to give us, and you specifically, the gift of a frivolous lawsuit so that all of their buddies can be put under oath. And this is why the Western Standard, in case anyone has not figured this out yet, decided to email David these questions. They decided to email these questions so that they could do a solid for their buddies in Alberta. That is beyond a shadow of a doubt. There is no journalistic curiosity here. You know, the questions are loaded, but we feel here at the Dean Blundell Network, and specifically here on Blackballed, that we owe it to the serious journalists at the Western Standard to make sure that we answer these questions as best we can. So that's what we are going to do. So let us move on to question number 2. Question number 2. How do you feel knowing that MLT Aiken's lawyer, Ariel Bretman, and Bennett Miskey said you caused Canadaland's said you caused Canadaland's, quote, words and the defamatory statements to be published, broadcast, streamed, and or downloaded? David, how do you feel knowing that you caused Canadaland to do things? First of all,
I must be a horrible human being. Jesse Brown must be enraged.
You
I
are
grabbed
powerful.
him, forced him to write these statements that I, against his will, forced him to name the series Ratfucker, even though it was against the algorithms. And he must be disappointed that I was able to bulldoze him so easily. And I'm sorry, Chris, for the first part of the question. I'm not currently up on the Alberta All-Star League in terms of attorneys this year. I don't keep track. No disrespect. I'm sure you're killers. And I look forward to you performing miracles because you're going to need them.
You know, it's a stacked lineup, the All-Star League of Alberta attorneys.
Yes.
But wow, do they ever fucking suck at the playoffs. As soon as it's playoff time, they just fall apart.
Well, you know, they kind of own the 80s. You got to give them the 80s.
Well, that's because of cocaine, clearly, and mullets. Listen, we're going to be joking around this whole podcast because it's just too funny. However, Jesse Brown did call you emaciated, so it is really weird that you would be strong enough to force him to broadcast that. I don't even understand the question. Sorry, that's the wrong one.
Because it sounds like it was written by a 2-year-old with a crayon.
Well,
it's extremely hard to decipher the statement. It's not a question. There's statements and presumptions about my feelings and emotions. Perhaps they should go into psychology. They might be more qualified.
Yeah, perhaps. They'd be doing a lot of self-analyzation, I believe. But, you know, it does, you know, they said that you caused Canadaland to broadcast. So they're not only sort of like making it seem like you put the screws to Jesse Brown and forced him to do something. They're also sort of questioning Jesse Brown's ability to report independently. And Jesse Brown prides himself for the deep dive, and I
don't think he has any problems reporting independently. I mean, he does quite a good job on his own. I don't need to push Jesse. He's a very big boy.
Yes, and he does it all on his own. There was these stories were completely unknown before.
Exactly. Nobody knew. You'd been reporting on it since what, April, May?
Yeah. It's just they all flew under the radar for some reason, and he
did a great job. Let's give him that.
You know what? I'll give him a little plug. Watch how little it is. And this is his series. Okay.
Okay, now that's bad. James, but I did
it's a good series. It's called, wait, hold on. It's a good series. It's called Ratfucker. I've already busted his balls for not once basically saying that we did stuff first. That's
there you go.
It was a very good series. I'm not trying to take anything away from him except the originality of the content. Okay. What were you saying, David?
You guys got to come together.
That sounds hot.
Oh, there you go. But I
Okay.
also just sent you another picture, James, and I think it's time that because I overlooked a very obvious name who was well aware of what I was in Alberta for in the fall of 2019 when we met and had lunch and he gifted me a little something. I sent you that picture in the direct messages. How could I have forgotten?
In Twitter?
Yes, I just sent you a
yeah,
direct
yeah.
DM. How could I have forgotten?
Yes, I know.
And this is for you, Western Substandard and Mr. Fuller Brush.
Hold on one second. I gotta here. Talk to the audience for a second while I snag this because I have to do a couple of tweaks. For some reason, this is really interesting, actually. Or at least to me, it is. My restream doesn't like medium JPEGs. Isn't that weird? Like it just, if someone sends me a medium JPEG, I won't be able to load it into my assets. And I just gave you a little glimpse, as Ryan Lindley would say, of how the sausage is made here at the Dean Blundell Network. However, I am going to show why it is very important that the Western Standard understands that David is not just a subject that they can just push around on behalf of their all-star attorneys in Alberta. David's been there since the beginning, as you can see from this picture of him holding the Libranos book with none other than Ezra Levant. Everybody, Ezra Levant. Okay. Anyways, by the way, you look like you're like 8 in that picture. Like, how long ago was this picture taken?
Just a couple of years ago. I got a one-size-fits-all body. It's convenient to change it up every now and again.
Yeah. Yeah, you look like that guy that you don't want dating your daughter in high school, you know?
Probably a correct decision.
Yeah, probably. Okay, let's get back to the searing and serious journalistic integrity of the Western Standard, who totally sent these questions because they were trying to be serious journalists. Let's go to question 4. No, question 3. What do you think about the Wenzels saying they have suffered ridicule, hatred, and contempt because of this story? What do you say to that, David?
You break it, you bought it.
That's right. The ridicule, let me get it right because I don't want to misquote the words of this journalist. What do you think about the Wenzels saying they have suffered ridicule, hatred, and contempt? Now, if I may, I would say, all kidding aside, for this brief moment, because the rest of it is going to be shits and giggles, I guarantee it. But what I would say is that they brought it upon themselves. They broke it. They bought it. Suffered ridicule. I mean, you're probably going to suffer ridicule if you attempt to pay a political fixer to oust an elected official and it goes south. Most of the ridicule that you're going to face, hopefully, is from yourself when you look in the mirror at night and try to figure out how you became so vacant and stupid as to do something like that. And I honestly, the wherewithal, that's not a strong enough word, the audacity of these people to try to pretend after the evidence in the Klondike Papers clearly shows and demonstrates that they knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly where their money was going.
You're damn right.
And why the money was going there. And they're not really fooling anybody. And it makes me wonder 2 things. One, did they know that it was in the Klondike Papers when they sued? If they didn't, do they know now?
Well, they have to. I told them when they were sitting at the table I was taping them. I didn't hide it. I tell them I always tape, always. You know why? For situations like this. It's okay for them to call me a con man or a super criminal. No, listen, you know what? I've faced ridicule. I've faced pain. And when I countersue, you're going to pay for it financially. That's how it works. But in terms of me, I believe my own personal opinion, you're facing ridicule. My personal opinion, I got no respect for you. You're trash with cash. That's what I think you are. But again, that's a personal opinion. You want to litigate that too? Go for it.
As long as you put the word allegedly in front. Like, I'll give you an example. Allegedly, the Wenzels are complete pieces of shit. But That's just allegedly. I don't know if they're shits. I don't know if they're pieces of shits.
I couldn't care less.
Is that how you say it?
Bad
Pieces
odor.
of
I don't want to
shit?
sit around them. I didn't like them as soon as I sat down.
Is it pieces of shits or pieces of shit? Because I know when you say more than one attorney general, it's attorneys general. So if someone could clear that up for me, I would really appreciate that. Before we go on, I just want to let everyone know that David has a GoFundMe page that I would just like to put in the comments here because
I think you should probably fill it up with these lawyers against me. They just told me I've got Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe from Alberta, that they're all set, and their lawyer, Willie B. Cheatham, is going to sue me. So,
yeah.
Daddy Warbucks is suing me, and I'm sorry I looked at my pockets. I don't have it. I mean, if need be, I'll crawl up on the court steps and I'll defend myself because these bastards are guilty.
I also want to say that I just put the GoFundMe page in the comments. If you guys understand, and most of my viewers I think do, and most of the viewers that watch the Dean Blundell show over the past 6 months do as well, the Klondike Papers were real. Unlike, contrary to what Justin Ling said, it's not a big book of conspiracy theories. It is listen, nobody has ever had to deal, all these all-star attorneys and these impeccable political fucktards in Alberta have never had to deal with somebody who worked in the shadows for decades deciding to shine sunlight on the things that he did and who he did them for. David Wallace is a glitch in the matrix, and all of these scandals that are coming out, the Nenshi scandal, the Doug Ford thing with the Russian money, all of these stories that have been vetted by reporters more seasoned than me, reporters from the CBC, Global, CTV, Canada Land, wherever, have determined that these stories are true. So if you enjoy watching politicians have to face the music for all of these crazy scandals, try to understand that David Wallace is no longer making any money. If it wasn't for him, these stories wouldn't be out. So that's why I posted the GoFundMe there. And so, I think, unlike, I've seen GoFundMes for things like, just for ridiculous things. People put GoFundMes now in their Twitter profile for literally nothing. They'll it's always below their pronouns. No offense to pronoun listers, but I'm just saying. And it's like, if you want to support me, but they have nothing to support. David Wallace is bringing us scandal after scandal after scandal after scandal, and they're true. So he's done it at great expense when it comes to his personal life, when it comes to his mental health, and when it comes to his bank account. So I think it is worth posting, worth clicking, worth giving a couple bucks. So it would be nice if anyone out there could contribute a few bucks to David right now. Okay, let's get on with the serious journalistic questions from the Western Standard. And let's see. We are on question 4. David, what is your opinion on them seeking $1 million in damage? What is your opinion on the $1 million in damage they're seeking?
I think they're greedy bastards.
Yeah. They're also pretty loaded, right? Like they're well-to-do, are they not? They're developers, right?
Well, yeah, they've been stealing from the community, in my opinion, or allegedly, whichever way you like to say it, probably for decades. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how they came across their money. Maybe they found it under a pillow. Maybe they won the lottery. I have no idea. I don't really have an opinion. I don't care.
The funny thing is that if they were really serious about suing the people responsible for the Nenshi story breaking, they'd be suing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Just to refresh, can you tell us the first time that the Wenzels paid your half your fee, right? You're not sure if it's between 21 and 25K, but it's over 20K. Yes. What did they think that they were buying at the time, and what did they say that they were buying in retrospect?
Well, I know exactly what they were buying. I was brought out after preliminary conversations with Edith and Shane Wenzel and Prem Singh on the phone. I was brought out or later that month. No, excuse me, it was the next month. It was late May when we spoke, and then late June when I came out, just towards the end. I sat down. I was led to believe it was contingent upon me selling my plan to Edith that I would be hired. So with Prem Singh and Edith Wenzel, we met up at a Starbucks, and I laid out my scenario. Edith gave it a thumbs up if I thought it would work, and then she left. That was it. I guess she authorized the release of the money. So I got paid after doing my prep work. I went home and I commenced putting the plan together by contacting Russian officials and Russian businessmen.
Now, the Prem Singh's role, she owns, she operates, I guess you would say, and runs political nonprofit organizations. Is that the idea?
I believe she did. I don't think she does anymore.
Okay, but was the idea at the time to put it through the political advocacy group or whatever it is that she managed in order to wash it
at the time? Again? I didn't know the mechanism at the time, and quite honestly, I didn't care. As long as
do you know the mechanism now, or are you still unclear?
I do know the mechanism now. It was put through one of her organizations and then given to me.
Okay. And that is a way that people like the Wenzels allegedly would distance themselves from where the money would end up going, right?
Yes, that's where I paid my taxes on anyway. So,
yeah. Did you pay your taxes on that dirty trick money?
I always do this for this type of money. As long as you pay your taxes, you don't have a problem.
Really?
Absolutely.
That reminds me of that guy in like year 2003 or something who he was such a marijuana advocate that he would send a check to the federal government every single year after like in the spring when he was done selling the harvest from the previous September, and he would just go and pay his taxes and tell the government what it was for. This is for my marijuana operation. And he would pay like his 30 grand in taxes. Yeah, I mean, like that's integrity right there. Okay, let's get back to the serious journalistic questions from Jonathan Bradley at the Western Standard. How do you intend to respond to this lawsuit, David?
Vigorously.
Are you going to countersue?
Oh, absolutely.
And that would be that list of people that we had on Saturday that you were going to depose. What? Let's tease a little bit because we don't want to say exactly what happened, but
no.
But an email was received today, which gave you some sort of comfort in the long-term strategy that you may have for this entire situation, correct?
Absolutely. We received an email. It'll be very public. I don't know. I mean, depending on how quickly it can be broken when the lawsuit is filed. Mm-hmm. But one of the individuals involved in this entire mess who I have wanted to get into the box, so to speak, that individual was either drunk or perhaps high or perhaps just using bad judgment, sent an email to another individual who then forwarded it to me inadvertently. However, we now have definitive proof of a criminal conspiracy and the grounds to sue that person. You see, the wonderful part of this is the Wenzels walked onto one side. It's what's known as a fly trap. They walked onto one side, which is bad, but if nothing is there to propel it upwards. But then one of the other dum-dums, quite by themselves, decided to walk on the other end, and now the circle is closed. So we now have grounds to launch a lawsuit and bring in a whole other part of the what I would call the syndicate in Alberta. This time we get them all in the box.
I'm going to tease a little bit more. I'm not going to say what happened today, but I just want to refresh the minds of our viewers.
Yes, please do.
On something that was, I believe that you said it on one of the Dean Blundell show podcasts that we were on. And you were actually really distraught about this because someone had posted pictures of your kids' toys and your furniture.
Antique. wing chairs that were gifts from my
Well, more importantly, your
great-grandparents
kids' toys,
and my
and
kids'
then
toys,
claimed
yes.
that they had pissed on your children's toys.
Yes, they did.
Um, let's just say that that is connected to the information that we received today.
Yes.
And it looks like we certainly seem to have the identity of the person who did that.
We
And
sure do.
wow.
Can you say you've just lost everything?
Oh my
And it's
God.
richly deserved.
Can I just I don't know how to, it's like Peter Griffith and Homer Simpson are running things in the political underworld in Alberta. They are so stupid. They're such bumbling idiots. And as funny as it is, because it's really funny, it's also really disgusting and also really confusing, because a lot of people are afraid of these people, and for good reason. You know, you know who I'm speaking with right now. I can't even hint at who I'm speaking right now, but I'm speaking with an individual right now that is has been making news for quite a while. And it has a lot to do with the stuff that's going on within Alberta, and that's as much hint as I can give you. But the crossover with the cast of characters that are harassing that individual and the people that are harassing you, it's the same people. And they just don't stop. They double down on doubling down, as someone from Alberta told me today,
That's
because
right,
they
that's
never
what
get caught.
cowardly dogs do. They
Well,
run
they
in
never get
packs, and that's where they get their bravery. But alone, they're just stray little puppies with no balls.
they never get caught. Right? And that is the thing. And not only do they never get caught, I think it's worth mentioning, and I'm going to speak in the abstract a little bit here, because I think it's important just for me to realize that, as funny as all this seems, I should probably I should probably just protect myself as much as I can. But if you are a person in Alberta, let's just say hypothetically that you're in Alberta and you find yourself in the midst of something that is a little bit either shady, or that you've been a victim of something, from the police, from the Calgary police to the RCMP, to judges, to prosecutors, to justice ministers, to the right-hand men and women of premiers, to premiers, you are surrounded by an ecosystem that protects itself. And I have heard from individuals, an individual in the last few days, about his own attorneys double-crossing him in order to get a ruling from a judge that would seem to be in that person's favor, but in the long run turns out to be completely detrimental to that person. And those lawyers are well known in this ecosystem. Sometimes you'll see things like a judge, and if you look at that judge's history, that judge used to be like a lawyer as well. And when you look at the cases that lawyer was involved with, and then the rulings that judge makes, it is clear. Listen, I've been sort of careful over the last little while to say something this definitive, and I'll still kind of be careful, but Alberta is fucked. It's just, the entire system, the legal system, the justice system, the police authorities, the police union, they know each other and they help each other to the detriment of justice itself. I cannot express that enough. And there is smoking gun after smoking gun, and it's crazy. But my rant and soapbox is over, because we need to get back to the serious journalistic questions as provided by the Western Standard here today.
Before the storm.
Yes. How do you, David? Oh, did I already ask how you intended to respond to the lawsuit? I did, right?
Yes, I believe you did.
What? Sorry, it was such a serious question that I needed to ask it again. Why did you call the Western Standard criminals and pedo supporters? Now, before you answer, I think this is important. This is an email, a letter that David got from the all-star roster of attorneys at the Western Standard. And it says, I am writing on behalf of the Western Standard New Media Corp, Western Standard, and its publisher, Derek Fildebrandt, regarding a recent publication under the name Open Source Media on the Twitter account at Pick61989. Is that a gambling handle? Like, what? Can you tell me the story behind that handle just for a second?
I can tell you one day, but not right now. That might get me in a little trouble.
Okay. You are, of course, publicly known to control and publish on this account. At 10:08, okay, sorry, I'll try to do my serious voice. At 10:18 a.m. on November 8th, 2022, the following tweet published by an individual identifying herself as a sexual assault victim of the City of Calgary counselor Sean Chu and the victim of an ongoing campaign of criminal harassment. And this person wrote, Rebecca Schultz knows exactly what is happening to me. We have spoken. She chose to pose with Sean Chu's literal apologist, Dustin Franks, Brett Pierce, who openly in public harasses me, and Derek Fildebrandt, who runs supportive articles for Chu and Dennis. And there is a picture. And then, in response to this tweet, you, David, published the following. Of course they do. Didn't Dennis sit on their board? Isn't Wenzel a contributor for articles? It's a PR site for them, a bunch of criminals and pedo supporters. Now, they think that, and the lawsuit, the greatest thing about the lawsuit is that, where is it? Within 15 days of acceptance of this offer, make a payment of $4,000 to Western Standard New Media Corp to assist the payment of legal fees and other costs incurred in respect of this frivolous, ridiculous matter.
$4,000.
I don't know where to begin.
Back to school and learn to read.
Yeah. Where do we begin with that one?
Well, it's ridiculous. I don't see where there's any grounds for libel there. In fact, there isn't. I know the law very well. I never mentioned the Western Substandard at all in that tweet. I put question marks there, what's known as rhetorical questions. However, if we were to perhaps subpoena and see who has donated to the Western Standard, perhaps we might find their names on that said list. I certainly intend to look. However, the phrasing and the structure of that tweet is in no way defamatory and does not meet the threshold. Perhaps you would like to stop wasting the court's time because it's frivolous and it's completely unjustified, Mr. Fullabrush.
I think it's important that we reiterate, preferably through the gag ball worn by one Brian Lilly, that this list of questions and this lawsuit from the Western Standard isn't because the Western Standard have clutched their pearls at a tweet from David Wallace.
You're clutching something.
They are clutching something, but what they are really doing is, in my opinion, allegedly acting at the behest of the people who were named in the Ratfucker series, where Jesse Brown did all that completely original reporting for the first time ever. And I think that it's important that that we at least recognize that the Western Standard is just a rag that publishes pro-conservative viewpoints, often being fed stories from conservatives who need the good press, but no one fucking reads it, right? It's really just an echo chamber. It only really goes to people who are part of that milieu that don't seem to care about any of the unfair practices of the crooked political culture inside Alberta. They just it's just looking in a mirror. The Western Standard is just a mirror for allegedly corrupt politicians.
I'd never read it before. I took a look at the article, and quite honestly, I've seen better journalism scratched on the walls of urinals when I go to take a squirt in a rest stop.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Where do you think they recruit?
Touche.
That's how they do it. Okay, well, let's get back to the serious journalistic questions from the Western Standard. Why is it important that people are free to speak their minds on controversy. This sounds like a fucking. This, it sounds
Free
like
where? At the Western Standard, or does it cost $4,000 every time you want to speak your mind?
it just. It's like, what intern did you get to put on this assignment? And you know what's hilarious about this, other than all of it, is that this Bradley, what the fuck is his name? Oh, sorry,
I
Jonathan.
think that's the other guy. Derek, fuck is his name again? No, this guy's
No,
something
but
else.
John.
Bradley, there you go.
First of all, and I'm sure there's a few good people that have two first names as a first and last name, but in my experience, you don't fucking trust people with two first names. So listen, Jonathan Bradley, you fucking illiterate intern. Oh, sorry. Let's get back to the question. Why is it important that people are free to speak their minds on controversial topics? Can you answer that question? Because that sounds like an essay question for a grade 8 student. So why is it important that people are free to speak their minds on controversial topics? I don't even
Well, geez, I don't know. Something called democracy,
Yeah, free speech.
free
Like,
speech.
we're talking about a controversial topic right now. We're talking about the rancid cesspool known as Alberta politics. These are serious topics. We're talking right now about the intermingling and incestuous relationship between the Western Standard and a lot of these fucking political conservative bagmen they have in Alberta. That's a serious controversial topic. In fact, Western Standard, you are known to be a bastion of free speech since the plucky rodeo clown days of Ezra Levant. So let me just tell you, I think it's really important to speak on controversial topics. It's controversial to me that a publication who mimics this man, Gagball Lily, this publication here, and is completely in the tank for a certain party and a certain type of politician, barely tries to hide it, and then pretends that they are serious about, quote, speaking your mind on controversial topics. And wait, hold on, Dave. Just I don't want to belabor the point of the sophistication of one Jonathan Bradley, but it's a two-part question. Okay, so hold on, hold your horses, everybody. This is a two-parter. The first part, once again, why is it important that people are free to speak their minds on controversial topics? Can I just say, I'm not even high right now, but I am so excited tonight to bring this serious journalism to you that I can't stop being silly and giddy. I apologize if
It's
my
ridiculous.
viewers aren't used to this. Second part of that question. If you can please have your I didn't even realize this is. If you can please have your answers to me by tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. David, don't look now. We are 11 hours and 15 minutes
I don't think
ahead of the clock from when this deadline was supposed to be. Like, actually, no. What does MST mean? Mountain Standard Time? What is that? 2 hours or 1 hour? Can someone in the chat tell me if East what time is it in the MST time zone right now? Anyways, we are approximately 11 hours ahead of our deadline. Okay, because we're answering all these questions right now. In fact, Jonathan Bradley, you two first named fuck, if you're listening, you can get all of your answers from this podcast. You can do this right now. It's 7:46 right now in the MST time. What the fuck is MST? I thought they were like Central. Isn't it Central time zone?
Mountain Standard.
Can someone give me an education on time zones? Because I don't really know what I'm doing.
Mountain Standard. There you go.
So if you can get your answer to me by tomorrow at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, that would be great. If you would prefer to answer my questions over the phone, please call me and I cross the number out, because I'm a serious journalist.
Absolutely.
I don't want to dox anybody.
No, they're good enough at doxing people.
I'll dox the area code. It's a Toronto fucking number, even though the email clearly states, my name is Jonathan Bradley, and I am an Alberta reporter at the Western Standard. I don't know if that's true. It might be.
You know, I got to say, though, it just leads right into the fact these bastions of free speech, these individuals who claim that the Liberal government or the NDP have media wired. Why is it that it's only these publications that seem to have a political voice? Why is it that it's these publications are supported by interests such as big oil, okay, and by technologies that are directly impacting our environment. Why is it? Is there some sort of pattern that I'm seeing here? I mean,
Well,
it's if you're looking for truth, you're not going to find it in Alberta, neither in its courts, its judiciary, its policing, or its politicians. And that's demonstrably clear from scandal after scandal after scandal after scandal. It is a cesspool, and there needs to be an enema. And if it was up to me, I'd stick the hose in Alberta, and that's where we begin sucking.
I'm sorry.
It's maddening when you see victims. You see sexual assault victims who are victimized by the very people who walk our streets, who swear allegiance to protect. It's demonstrably evil to me that judges and lawyers work against their clients, all for political backroom favors. It's abhorrent for me that an unelected premier can unilaterally cut healthcare and education and move forward with a suicidal strategy that is putting millions of children's lives at risk through the rejection of science and my fucking horse pharmaceuticals. I mean, talking about the World Economic Forum like Klaus Schwab is putting fucking computer chips in your brain. What are we gonna? Our lizard overlords visiting us soon? This is nuts. This is the talk of people who are unbalanced. It's insane. And I'm the problem? My God, how many people need to die in that province so that the goddamn money machine will keep kicking cash into their pockets? I'm sick of it. And so should Canada be.
I agree. I would have strongly preferred you didn't mention sexual assault victims while I was still laughing hysterically at the comment you said before, but we'll deal with that.
Sorry. But it's a disgrace. And I know there's good people in Alberta. In fact, the majority of the people in Alberta are good people. They're strong people. They're great people. And I enjoyed their company. It's a sad thing that a very small cabal of bad apples are spoiling the whole bunch. And it's time to turf these people out on their ass, every last one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I am. First of all, the like Sideshow Bob stepping on the proverbial pile of rakes. I am a little bit shocked that that the Wenzels launched the lawsuit to begin with. I'm completely like I don't even know what to say about that. Oh yeah, I do. I've been saying it for the last 3 days, and then the Western Standard thinking that they can just, pass themselves off as serious journalists, asking questions that are all of these questions are designed to do one of two things: for you to incriminate yourself at the benefit of the Wenzels who are suing, right? And the other thing is to kind of, I guess, incriminate yourself at the massive, gargantuan $4,000 lawsuit launched by the Western Standard, which, by the way,
I guess this guy didn't get enough money out of his Airbnb, huh? For his government.
Yeah, well, $4,000 would probably match their yearly subscription inflows. So, I mean, maybe you'd be doubling their subscription inflows, I think, because there's only I don't know. Fuck. The $4,000. I stumble over my own words when I talk about the $4,000 thing, because does that even cover the paperwork that it would need to even launch the lawsuit to begin with? Like, but I guess when you have the all-star attorneys that are your buddies, they probably work pro bono for the conservative cause.
Of course. But
this is all part of the mechanism. I mean, Post Media is guilty to a certain degree as well. I wouldn't put a blanket over the entire Post Media organization, because there are good reporters at the like the Ottawa Citizen and the Calgary Herald.
There are good reporters everywhere. They're just their voices are being strangled by oligarchs. That's the problem. Yeah,
and by the way, it should be noted that the Wenzels did file in a Calgary courtroom today the actual paperwork. Sorry, not today. Like they did it on. I have it in front of me here. November 10th is when they actually launched the lawsuit. Which
Oh,
actually is a
sorry.
surprise now that I think, because that was 11 days ago. And we found out about it, 4 days ago? So it took a week before they leaked it, I guess, to Post Media. And then when they did, you guys still haven't been served yet.
No, none of the individuals named in this suit, to the best of my knowledge, have been served. I'm absolutely sure of at least one of them. When I spoke with Jesse yesterday, he had not been served.
Well, I and then today I served you in a sense, because I got the court documents before you did, and then I sent them to you. But the court documents are interesting because they go
Still don't count. They have to send them because I can't be sure of their authenticity.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure of their authenticity.
Still, they got to work for it.
It's stamped by the Judicial Center of Calgary, the clerk of the court. If you guys that are listening or in the chat, the case number is 2201-13133, and it was filed November 10th. And the lawyers involved are the MLT Aikens LLP. That would be and Ariel Brightman and Bennett Miskey are the I guess the lawyers that are involved in the case. And then it goes through the ridiculous charges. Most of the stuff is directed towards you and Jesse Brown. This is the part of this is the defamatory statement that they say Canada Land made. I'm just going to read it. I don't have the graphic. So this is, I guess, what was part of the transcript of Ratfucker. Several Calgary Conservative players contributed to a failed plan to entrap Naheed Nenshi, then the mayor of Calgary, into accepting illegal Russian money. Sources involved in the plan and leaked emails reveal that, quote, Operation Peacock, end quote, was an attempt by a political fixer backed by local business interests and arranged by political strategists, which was intended to create a scandal that would leak to the removal of the mayor. The plan collapsed when Nenshi failed to take the bait. It was to set up a scenario in which these supposedly corrupt politicians were put in compromising positions on tape, where they were accepting favors in exchange for acting as cover to wash these funds. David Wallace, the aforementioned fixer, tells Canada Land in the new investigative series Ratfucker. Hallman denied to Canada Land that he actually played a part in raising the money for the resulting job. Hallman said he facilitated a connection between Wallace and Prem Singh, a conservative fundraiser and campaigner. Hallman
technically, wouldn't that be helping? Wouldn't that be helping technically? Facilitating, helping. I know you.
This is all part of the Ratfucker thing that you may not remember was in it. But Hallman told Canada Land that Singh approached the Wenzels, a prominent family in the Calgary real estate development business and well-known adversaries of Naheed Nenshi, for a contribution to the plan. I knew that the Wenzels were part of Prem's fundraising network, Hallman says. He speculates that Singh likely convinced the Wenzels that funds were needed to hire a fixer to attempt to collect evidence on Nenshi. An email in Wallace's leaked communications, known as the Klondike Papers, shows that Edith Wenzel, co-owner of real estate development firm Shane Homes, and her son, Shane, communicated with Singh about the plot. Edith Wenzel wrote to Singh and said she met with Singh and her unsavory, quote, friend 3 times, who she also referred to as Singh's dark acquaintance. I don't know, you look pretty white to me. She wrote that although she found the scheme suspicious, she still contributed more money to the effort, as did her son, Shane, in an amount he couldn't afford. Apparently, he's not a rich developer. He's a struggling developer. Like a starving artist, I guess. The price for the job, Wenzel was told, had now grown to $50,000. Wenzel wrote that she was unaware of the details of what the scheme involved and should not be considered a partner to the plot. Prem Singh confirms that she did take money for Operation Peacock from the Wenzels and gave it to David Wallace. But she says it was entirely Wallace's plan and that she was not informed about what was really going on, only acting to connect the two parties. That is the basis of their entire case.
And let me say why it's flawed right off. I mean, you can see this. I'll send it to you, actually. This is very clear where the fundraising was coming from. I can read you quote for quote because all these screenshots have been saved. Chad Hallman. Let me see this. January 3rd, 2019 at 1:52 a.m. I'll have some progress by the weekend on the fundraising. These are all a matter of public record. They're in the Klondike papers. You can check for yourself. Also, let me see here. On January 4th, 2019 at 11:11 p.m., working around a couple of people's schedules as I need to get a few specific people together. Chad Holman was the one who did the fundraising. Prem Singh was their step and fetch it girl. They used her to get me invites to the mayor's breakfast, things of that nature. But Prem Singh was not the original financer or fundraiser. That started with Chad Holman, who put him together, I believe, with the Wenzels. That's my understanding of the mechanism. I could be wrong. But Chad Holman explicitly stated to me in those messages that he was speaking to people about fundraising. Now, whether he raised it or not, I don't know. But his assertion that he had nothing to do with it is a bold-faced and demonstrable lie. He's
Chad Holman or Alan Holman?
Chad Holman, the son. I met Alan through his kid there, Chad.
Okay, but Alan Holman is the one that also has his fingerprints on this, correct?
Alan Holman acted or offered to act as a go-between between me and the Nenshi, or not the Nenshis, the Wenzels, to retrieve the rest of the money they never paid me. Because like most people of their wealth, they stiff people. That's what they do.
Yeah. The hubris is amazing. You know, the entitlement to it's like they operate. They're entitled to their own corruption, and they almost seem offended.
They're gangsters. That's all they are. And to call me a dark, okay, that's fine. But I can guarantee you, ma'am, I am so much above you, even though I may be nothing. Maybe I might be looked down upon by people, and they might be right to be. But compared to you, lady, I'm a saint.
Who are you speaking to?
It's
what lady are you speaking to?
And she willingly, through her own friend, who I didn't know any better than her. I mean, Prem Singh, I met and spoke to, and then directly met Edith Wenzel. I didn't know any of these people from Adam. Prem Singh conducted herself with some integrity during this. Did she do a few things wrong along the way, like me? Probably. But she also is the one who's paid a tremendous price because of this. They left her holding the bag. Now, I didn't know Prem Singh, and they threw her to me like they would throw somebody to the wolves and said, well, she owes you the money, not us. That's not what I was told. I sat at the table with Edith Wenzel. She had to approve this job. And saying that I came up with the scheme, well, that's what you hired me for. I had to tell you what I was going to do.
Was that your Macaulay Culkin?
It hurts it actually hurts my head to try to think of the mental gymnastics that this individual is going through. Your guilt is demonstrable, and I will defend my position vigorously, and your own words and will be your undoing.
Who are you talking about specifically right now?
I'm talking about Edith Wenzel.
Okay, because I haven't, if I may just speak directly to Prem Singh for a second, because this is I know that we might actually even disagree on this, David, but this would be my advice to Prem Singh. Prem, if you're watching, I think you need to go to the media immediately and tell them what your role was in this, because they are going to keep feeding you to the wolves if you don't. They are going to destroy you. Right now, they're probably telling you to just hold tight. You know, this will blow over, yada, yada. It's not going to blow over. And because you were the person who sort of was the straw that stirred the drink, I actually think, David, Prem, this continues the advice, at least on my end. I actually think that, like, she's one of those people that Bagman referred to as a useful idiot. And I'm not calling her an idiot, but I'm saying, like, they needed a body between the Wenzels and you to take the shrapnel.
That's exactly what they put her in that place. The exact place is the same way Holman was inserted between me and the Plymouth Brethren Church. Holman did it willingly for money, and Prem did it for a cause. That's my belief. Once she saw that the cause was lost, that Nenshi was not going to be tricked into anything, she was basically being punished for it by the people who wanted them to hire me. She came to them with a solution that they asked for. And when the solution wasn't to their liking, they threw her to me and said she owes you the rest of the money.
You know what's interesting about that is that there seems to be a hierarchy at work. Gerald Shapur, for example, when it came to the Richard Marsh thing and the fees that you were receiving,
Yes.
in that situation, Alan Hallman played the role of Prem Singh.
He sure did.
So the hierarchy would be that like Gerald Shapur and Alan Hallman are not equals.
No, they're not. Alan Hallman has made himself a very rich man recently through raping the province of Alberta, through dirty deals, backdoor, after dark deals, by putting his son in government, by having his son work with the health minister. The level of criminality that this man has gotten away with for decades is stunning. The fact that he attempted to set up an RCMP officer and entrap him to then give to a detective from the Calgary Police Service on the pretense of trying to remove the RCMP and quash the UCP identity theft investigation is stunning and abhorrent, and his biggest mistake, because the RCMP are no fools. And to think that they weren't aware of every step that you were taking, well, you certainly stepped in it, Mr. Hallman.
Yes. Do you happen to know the person that informed the RCMP of this wrongdoing?
Oh, I might know him, yes.
Yeah.
There's no getting out of it, Alan. The hotel where the recording was made, well, my room there was paid for by you. How'd you know I was going to be there?
I just want to circle back a little bit because I think viewers might not remember, listeners might not remember. Chad Hallman was working for the name of the health minister.
Chandro, I believe his name was.
That minister decided to give the contract, the hefty PPE contract, to what was the name of the company again?
Equity Health Services, I believe.
Yep. Which is just a coincidence, guys.
Everything's a coincidence.
Yeah.
There's no conspiracy. Well, actually, there is. And what a conspiracy is. You see, this isn't Alex Jones sitting here denying that children were murdered and victimizing parents again and again, selling you lunacy and crazy, hurtful, damaging, and stories that kill people, quite frankly. The man's a criminal, and he belongs in prison. This is a conspiracy in the old-fashioned sense. It is a group of very powerful individuals who have conspired together to commit crimes, and it's demonstrably clear and provable. That's a conspiracy. And if you want to call this a conspiracy theory, well, there's no theory to it. It is now fact, and it's been proven in print over and over.
If anyone in Ontario remembers who Sandro Lisi is, which was the guy who would help Rob Ford get crack. Remember that guy? This province of Alberta has like 25 Sandro Lisis running around, doing the dirty work of people. And this is the first time I've even thought of it in a hierarchical kind of sense. But when you mentioned, and when we just talked about Prem Singh's role and how she basically is a body to block the shrapnel so that the Wenzels don't get hit and so that Hallman doesn't get hit, I immediately just thought of the way that Gerald Shapur didn't want to be seen paying you directly, but then Alan Hallman sends you screenshots of Gerald Shapur sending money to him so that you or to that company, so that you would know that the money is coming down the pipe.
He's like a moron. He was probably drunk.
I mean, does Gerald Shapur, does he do what Tony Soprano does and smack around his soldiers when they get out of line? Like, you've been in this soup, in this like ecosystem of dark corruption in Alberta. Is there any sort of does the hierarchy exist in a way where like Gerald Shapur would be like, you better fucking straighten this out? Like give me an idea of what that might look like, if you even know.
Well, this didn't used to happen before we had real grown-ups in charge, and now we don't. The bagmen have certainly fallen down several degrees, and I believe that Alan's alcoholism has probably caused him to slip quite a bit. Alleged alcoholism, although I never saw him sober.
Someone told me
that
yesterday. Someone that knows Alan Holman told me yesterday that he smells like a case of beer with broken bottles in it that's been left in a trunk for a weekend.
Wow, that's
what he
smells like. Jonathan Dennis's cologne too.
Yeah, he smells like Maple Leaf Gardens, the old bathrooms in Maple Leaf Gardens. Remember the trough that was just angled just like this? And if you were unlucky to be the guy at the slanted end of the trough, you just got all of this like magical aroma of like 30 old men's urine. That's what Alan Holman smells like.
I think they've gotten away with it for so long, and they've been able to silence dissent through their connections. I mean, when you've got people inside law enforcement, inside the judiciary, when you have them in the positions of power, when you have alleged mafia figures and street gangs to keep people in order, people are scared. They don't come forward, and with that type of bullying, because that's what it is. Let's face it, they may be wolves, but separately, a wolf can be killed. I mean, you have an axe, you chop it off, it's dead. But together, they're dangerous. But these are cowardly dogs. And people now, I think, are seeing that if they stand up, they can throw these scumbags out of their cities. They can throw them out of office. We do need to stand up. We need to get rid of these people, because this is a microcosm of what is going on worldwide right now. These are the people who are costing our loved ones to die through lack of belief in medical science. These are the people who are twiddling their thumbs and standing by while we suck every last drop of oil out of the ground and kill our trees and make our air so bloody polluted we can't breathe. These are the people who are propping up an old economy. These are the people who are spending us into bankruptcy, and why our dollars have about 2 cents worth of purchasing power. It's a dying system. And until we get rid of this corruption, until we wash it clean, there's no chance we can move forward. None.
Yeah, I think Danielle Smith the other day, she said that I think she said something like, the province is being forced to ignore their number one industry in favor of, I think the quote is something like, in favor of wind, solar, and other experimental technologies.
She's pushing oil and gas. She might as well be talking about opening up new buggy whip factories or maybe hat making shops.
She can make the new Brethren bonnets.
Yeah. It's 2022, and if we don't smarten up, there won't be a 2052. We're killing this planet, and what needs to stop. And the first step is to remove politicians who preach science as taught by Dr. Zeus. This is insanity. It's crazy, and it needs to stop, or people will die.
Yeah, the environment stuff is definitely important. I'm still stuck on the we're corrupt and we don't care who knows it kind of culture that is happening there. I can't stress this enough. The other individual that I've been speaking with, whose bio, in case I cannot mention more than the fact that this person exists, and the crossover and the of individuals that are involved in that person's situation are the exact same people involved in your situation. And I'm close, I think, to maybe possibly having that individual on the show. And I think that when that happens, oh my God, it's like maybe I should start laughing less, because the exposure of the sunlight that's hitting these people. And by the way, it requires another person like yourself. Okay, I think that, and we'll end it on this. The idea that any of this could ever have been uncovered without a whistleblower, without a David Wallace shining the light And I'm glad you were a person that was operating in the shadows, getting paid for dirty tricks, because you are the person that is the only credible one to shine a light on this. You can't get some like Johnny Goody two shoes to try to like shine a light on the corruption in Alberta, because that guy doesn't know anything. You know where the bodies are buried, right?
You want
The
to swim in
idea-
the sewers and you want to hunt for sharks, you better get yourself another shark.
Right. You're the guy that like, you're like that Trump accountant, Weiselberger, I think his name is. I mean, that was the guy that Trump relied on to fix his books, to fix his accounting, so that the inflated value of his real estate holdings could result in higher bank loans. That's why the Trump organization is being sued for $250 million right now. But they wouldn't be able to do any of that without the guy that knew where the bodies were buried, and that is the accountant. You're like the accountant. You know where this shit is. And in order for the culture of corrupt politics to be washed away or cleansed or repaired or chipped away at, or whatever you want to call it, they need people like yourself who know where these bodies are buried, you know? And it's actually to their detriment that there is a hierarchical construct that they operate within, because maybe Alan Holman one day will have to start talking and throw the person above him under the bus. Maybe the person below Alan Holman will have to throw Alan Holman under the bus. But eventually, if you want a clean house, you need to evict. And the only way to evict is to get somebody to say, these tenants are breaking the law. You need to evict them.
Absolutely.
David Wallace, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Tally ho.
Yeah. I would like to, first of all, send big thanks to Jonathan Bradley of the Western Standard for providing me with enough content to laugh my ass off for the first half of the podcast tonight. I really appreciate it. Your integrity and journalistic seriousness is both noted and applauded. I would also like to thank Brian Lilly, the gag ball president of Post Media, for providing me with the metaphor to do my intro about the serious journalists over at the Western Standard. Western Standard. I don't even have a tagline set up for them. Western Standard. By the way, they were named after the Weekly Standard, which is a horrible, toxic, poisonous conservative rag out of the United States that probably thinks that Trudeau is Fidel Castro's son and also the new Hitler. I had fun tonight. This was an unplanned podcast. And I am a little bit, I'm kind of delirious, I would say, at the idea that a lowly podcaster like myself is trying to like bring down, I'm basically trying to bring down Alberta at this point. Not the people, well, some of the people, but the cult, for one thing, the Plymouth Brethren Christian cult. And now these cast of characters that include powerful politicians and their bagmen. It is surreal to me that we can't seem to find any, still to this day, can't seem to find any mainstream media appetite for shining a spotlight on these things. But thanks to the good work of Shane and Edith Wenzel for bravely stepping on that rake in the form of a lawsuit against David Wallace, we may still get to see what it's like to put a sitting premier, a former justice minister, a former political chief of staff to Jason Kenney, conservative activists, and shine a light in their face and get them to, let's face it, probably lie under oath. That's probably what's going to happen. However, the fact that they opened themselves up to this is an important first domino, not only for the David Wallace lawsuit and his entire situation, but to other people in Alberta that are currently being victimized by the cast of characters that I mentioned before. In order to adhere to an agreement that I made with that other individual that I mentioned, I will not be giving away that person's identity or anything, but let me just tell you, when that story comes out, it may not have the sort of national, I guess, appeal that David Wallace has because of Jesse Brown's work on Ratfucker. Here, let me plug Ratfucker again. There you go. But also, it will probably be more provincially centric, that person's situation, but it will blow your fucking mind. The level of corruption and cooperation in that incestuous world in Alberta politics, where the justice system and the police and the political class all, fuck each other and have orgies of corruption and help each other out when it comes to victimizing people over and over and over again. It is, guys, it's fucking crazy. Do you remember how crazy it was 6 months ago when we had David Wallace on the Dean Blundell show and Lachlan, bless his heart, was like, I don't even know how to take all this. And he was right. Everything has come into fruition. And so now when I talk to David, I'm so like enthralled by the things that he says that are domestic and that are provable, that when he told me today that he still hadn't been served, I'm like, okay, I'll just go get the fucking documents. And I secured the documents before the guy that was supposed to get served was supposed to see. It doesn't make any sense. Everything about this story seems to be theater. If the Wenzels, and I'll leave it at this because my voice hurts, and I'm at this point I feel like I'm repeating myself a little. But if the Wenzels go through with this lawsuit, bye-bye several people's careers. If this other individual comes out and starts talking, bye-bye several people's careers. Hello, national news story, but probably not because our fucking media sucks so fucking bad. I can knock this shit out of Western Standard because on the face of it, they're clearly a slanted, in the tank fake news organization. But CBC, CTV, Global, what the fuck are you waiting for? Honestly, what the fuck are you waiting for? There is so much happening right now that speaks to the fragility of our democracy and the joke that is our political system. But I'm here for all of it. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Blackballed.
Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed.